guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back, it's race day and we're back in Suzuka. Yeah. Our very first race day of these classic race reviews was the 2005 one where Kimi Räikkönen came from the back to claim victory. But today's one, we go back to 1989 in the heat of a tough rivalry between Prost versus Senna. It is coming down to a championship decider. The last race is in Adelaide. For Senna to have any chance of winning the championship, he needs to win this race. Prost leads from the start, Senna is in pursuit, but we're going to get on to that because that's the main part of the race. In fairness, this race is pretty much Prost versus Senna. That is literally the race encapsulated in its full.
Probably the least, I would say eventful, is that the right word, out of the ones we've seen so far? Not that it wasn't a great race, it was the main focus was this one duel. Wasn't much to speak of elsewhere in the race. Yeah,
it was a great duel though, so that's why we'll dedicate the main part of the video to it. But we'll just round off the there were, well basically I would say that the rest of the race was probably dominated by retirements and who else could survive the race.
Yeah, like a common theme in these classic races, it was the war of attrition for most.
Yeah, the war of attrition. The Ferraris, they were probably the second best car in a season that again was dominated by the McLarens, and Berger was actually having a very good race.
Yeah, he was in third for basically all of it, unchallenged, couldn't challenge the McLarens, race of his own.
Yeah, I mean, probably looking with how close Nannini, and obviously Nannini, we'll get on to that, crowned the eventual winner of the race, it probably would have been a race win for Ferrari.
Possibly, yeah. Well, yeah, sorry, for sure.
Mansell also retired during the race, his engine blew up, probably. It didn't quite work out for him. He kind of got stuck behind Nannini in the Benetton Ford, and then his engine blew up. And
okay. Well, there was a fire. There was an oil spillage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But there was a fire in the back of his car. But he just kept going for a few more laps, and then eventually
then was like, oh, I'll stop now.
I think he may have just ran out of oil. I don't think. Maybe it was his choice, I don't know. And
then the stewards, not the stewards, then the marshals came round, and he took over the fire extinguisher.
They had a little lesson from Nigel. It's like get around.
And then
you stick the extinguisher when your car's on fire.
And then the car just went, not up in flames, just come out. Probably the wrong action. God, was everyone okay? Sorry, just the fire extinguisher went up and from there. But I can't really. The race wasn't really covered. Whenever it wasn't following Prost and Senna, James Hunt was moaning that it wasn't following Prost and Senna. It was like, Mansell's retired there, but we really just want to see the battle between Prost and
I think we joined the battle between Nannini and was it Nannini and Mansell?
Yeah, that was for a bit.
But I think we joined it after the main fight of it.
Yeah, that was it.
That was Murray's turn to complain about the cameras. He was like, really want to see this battle, and then we went to it, and then the gap was just extending between the two.
Yeah, it was probably the most exciting part of the first half of the race before the pit stops came in. And yeah, it was like, Mansell is less than a second behind Nannini, but we're watching the other Ferrari.
It's Berger.
Berger just literally, like, McLaren's, they're miles away. He's built up a good distance between himself and Nannini, and it's like, why are we doing this? But it's good to know that in 2019, obviously, with the broadcasting, we've fixed those issues, and we don't miss the action that's happening on track. That doesn't happen anymore.
Anyway,
2020 is a new year when racing gets started. They've got all this time to prepare, maybe. I hopefully, is it F1 TV Pro who have the kind of split screen? I wouldn't be opposed to kind of that type of thing, because they got the Perez and Sainz overtakes on the last corner as Hamilton crossed the line. So yeah, that was pretty cool to kind of watch, and the commentary was pretty nice on that too. Anyway, we're sidetracking from a completely different topic. Basically, the most exciting part of the first half of the race was completely missed, basically, by the TV directors.
Prost had a great first stint on his tyres and built quite, I can't remember, was it about 4 seconds in the end when they came in for their first round of pits. So yeah, Prost dominated the first half, and we had that little bout of Nannini and Mansell. Yeah,
and then just throughout the race, I think Stephen was saying that quite a lot retired, so we'll go through the retirement list just to kind of throw things up in a curveball. We're going to put it in the middle. You can stall for a minute while I get the retirees up. As always, we desperately prepared.
We saw about 4 or 5 of them. Classic pan shots of car stopped, no driver in it. It's like, oh, it's that car. They've retired. But yeah.
There was a Lamborghini. That was quite interesting, seeing the Lamborghini.
There was 2 cars that retired in exactly the same spot. I think that's the Japanese driver.
Okay, so I don't know. Well, we'll come on to this. Senna disqualified. Alain.
Maybe you should miss this. I guess it's the full list of retirees.
Where's the full list of retirees? Alain Prost didn't retire. Actually, classified 10th. Should have a note of this.
Prost was classified 10th?
No, he wasn't.
I was going to say.
Andre de Cesaris from last week. We, good old Andre was driving the Dallara Ford at this stage, not the Alphas. I don't even think the Alphas were racing at this stage. Where are we going? Stefano Modena, out. Nigel Mansell, out. Satoru Nakajima, out. John Alessi, out. Of course, these are all retirees. I probably should stop saying out. Philippe Alliot, out. Gerard Berger, out. Or it's Gerhard Berger, isn't it? Emmanuel Pirot, Olivier Grouillard. This is just funny for me, butchering names. Ivan Capelli, Nicola Larini, Jonathan Palmer, Bernd Schneider, Luis Perez Salat. Sorry, I was just going, it's so long. Paolo Barilla.
Well, literally, we didn't realise until Murray mentioned, only 14 cars left of the original 26 starting, and we're like, what?
I mean, this is even better, because there's a did not qualify list as well.
Oh, jeez.
Rene Arnoux.
Oh, yeah.
Him again, popping up. Michel Alboreto. Nope. Henry Raffanel. Bertrand Gachot. Piercarlo Ginzani. Roberto Moreno, Stefan Janssen, Aguri Suzuki, Oscar Larari, JJ Leto, Gabriel Tarquini, Yannick Dalmas, and Enrico Battaglia.
It's a lot.
There's a few names on that list, but that's probably the most exciting bit about the rest of the race for everybody else.
Everybody else, yes.
So second half of the race, we're on to it now. This is the good stuff. This is why you're all tuned in. We've stalled for it on long enough. Prost versus Senna, and we should start with the pit stops, I think. So Prost came in first, had a very, very speedy pit stop, 7.2 seconds, wasn't it, or something, 7.8 Lightning.
Yeah.
For those days, was light.
And then Senna went out another lap. I think he was in traffic for his extra lap out, so he didn't really make the most of a quick in lap. But he came in and it was quite a slow pit stop on 8.9. It may have been even 9 seconds, 9.2. I've got it in my head.
For Senna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was above the 8 seconds.
It was a couple of seconds slower, and he had to be a couple of seconds quicker to stand a chance of beating Prost out the pit stops. But
Prost, he didn't really lose much time either. So even if it had been around 8 seconds, it would probably been a lot closer.
We got a quick on board of Senna coming out the pit lane, and he was flying.
Yeah. I don't know if the kind of pit limiter and speed limit was in there because he was quick.
But anyway, came up 4 seconds behind Prost.
And then it was just, for younger viewers watching, who might not have watched this, compare it very much to Hamilton and Verstappen in Hungary last year. But instead of Senna being on the fresher tyres and Max Verstappen being on the worn tyres, they were on the same kind of type of degradation of tyre probably at that point.
It was just a lap difference.
Yeah, Senna was just flying. He like...
Man on a mission.
Hot pursuit kind of through there. Prost and Senna both struggled navigating through traffic because that was the main part of their seasons really. It wasn't any of the other teams, it was how they were going to navigate the traffic because they were so much quicker than anybody else. And yeah, like he was just lightning and he would get close, and then ensued, I don't know if it was with about 12 laps to go, sounds about right, where he finally caught it.
Lap 40 was when he started really putting the pressure on. It was about 13 laps left?
Yeah.
53, yeah. About 13 laps left. That's when the real battle, less than a second between them, started.
Commenced, and it was enthralling watching, bar the odd times where the camera jumped away. Yeah. But it was like, obviously, you know, we had another classic battle, Mansell and Senna in Monaco a couple of weeks back on a review, and it wasn't as intense in that because it wasn't, you know, in the last couple of laps and it wasn't around the streets of Monaco, but it was still an intriguing battle. Suzuka is narrow, as James Hunt repeatedly pointed out during the commentary on that one. Difficult to overtake. He might have to do something rather ambitious, which he's been proven to do, to get past this. Little did they know.
Yeah. Did he mention before the incident?
Yeah, before.
That Prost, that Senna had to be careful because all Prost had to do was make sure neither of them finished ahead of Senna to win the World Championship.
Yep.
So he was
and he was like, but I wouldn't think Prost would do that.
So Prost is a very good man, and I don't think anyone would think of that of him. Nope.
Wouldn't do that. But...
Well, then Senna, there was a bit of a gap. I think Prost extended his lead a bit. Not by much, but Senna dropped back a bit. Then came back in about last four laps. Right back on Prost's tail.
I believe it was lap 6 that with 6 laps to go, the incident happened. Because he then had 5 laps to catch Nannini. But we'll get on to that. So basically... They're coming into the chicane right at the end of the lap, before coming around, past the chicane onto the last corner, onto the start-finish straight. Senna goes for a bold move, and it is a bold move on the inside. But
we saw, what was it, last year, Albon Norris?
Yeah, and I did think Albon was in the wrong there.
Yeah,
he
so
basically
Albon
used Norris to
charges down the middle, then bumps Norris out of the way.
Yeah.
Did Norris use the escape rope there?
I think he did.
Just an important factor will come on later.
Right, so anyway, we'll have the incident on the screen in terms of, we'll show it now in terms of, so as you can see, Senna is coming up and alongside Prost, and then Prost turns in early on the corner, bumps into it, and they both look like their races is over. It looks like they've taken each other out. Bang, that's done. Game over.
I think Prost is straight out of his car.
Yeah, he's like, brilliant, job done, World Championship in the bag. Don't have to worry about that. Meanwhile, the very keen Japanese marshals, probably paid by Honda.
Senna was doing a lot of this, and a lot of this, and a lot of this.
Very true. But anyway...
they just chucked Prost's car out the way.
Yeah, they get that out of the way.
Then the whole team emerges.
Pushed him back, pushed him forward, and then he went off the escape road, important to note.
Senna, yeah.
important to note on this incident, went off the escape road. We'll put up to kind of show, what exactly happened there.
Yeah, he went round the little slowing chicanes to make sure he got no competitive advantage.
Came out ahead of Nannini. His front wing was in bits.
Yeah.
And from completing round the next lap, his front wing actually was...
He'd lost it.
It lost it when... and this isn't the time, obviously, get confused. Last week, there was a McLaren without a front wing, but that was okay, because that was the car design. This one, no, not good.
They really needed that front wing.
But yeah, gets in the pits, bang, bang, comes out behind Nannini in the Benetton Ford. Nannini, at this time, having a great race. Isn't pursues him, I believe. You've got funny little kind of graphics coming up. I do enjoy that. 5 laps to go. It was like the red was like flat. The 5 was flashing red and yellow. Ooh, and laps it was just like going along them. It felt very disco.
Yeah,
very disco. But yeah, he catches Nannini at the same spot where him and Prost have collided. He then makes a fantastic overtake move, actually. This was brilliant.
Yeah.
And this one, especially bold and ambitious from Senna. Go from there. Takes it, finishes round the race in the lead.
It was in the exact same spot as the Prost one, in that just before that last chicane.
And,
Nannini locked up, and
Nannini was probably okay settling for second, because second's still a fantastic result for the Benetton. And Senna came across the line in first.
Yeah.
And then afterwards happened. And so it's one of the talked about ones. I have no feeling towards Senna or Prost either way. I think they're both fantastic drivers on this. So it's not leaning on one side of the argument for them. But from the aerial view, he just turns in early.
Yeah, even the onboard. I think the onboard of Prost is also a big telling.
Like, if you just look where he's going and where his car's angled, if he's making the corner, he's running over the grass, which isn't the normal line through there.
No.
So
he's literally cutting the apex.
Yeah.
You can see where he's moving the middle of the car to. It's over the apex.
Yeah. And obviously Hunt at the time was quite funny going, what was Senna doing?
Oh, yes. He was blaming Senna for not anticipating
that Prost would crash into it. That is what it came across as commentary.
So Prost was completely in the right. This was the right thing to do to cut up Senna. And Senna that was bad Senna. He should have anticipated Prost doing it.
I don't know if he hadn't had because obviously back then the video footage wasn't good. I don't know, without looking too closely at it, how clear it would have seemed. But you can go back and look at it now, and from the aerial shots and from the Prost onboard, and it just is very obvious that he's aware that Senna's alongside him and turns in early.
He is more than half a car alongside Prost.
Yeah, if Prost had, taken the normal turning in point and they'd still collided, I wouldn't have necessarily had an issue because Senna did come from a long way back. But he does turn in early, and I know he describes it as that neither of us are racing drivers, so neither of us are going in that situation. But we've watched a lot of racing, and it just kind of feels like he did know what he was doing there. And he wasn't going to give an inch to Senna, but this one he just overstepped the line. I mean, to prove that, neither of them are angels in this situation, what happened in 1990 with Senna was a lot worse in the fact that he just steamrolled through Prost at a high speed, from the kind of start, and just, went through him. And took them both out the race in a similar situation, which enabled him to then win the championship, like this enabled Prost to win the championship. But, obviously, that was a racing incident, or so he thought, later on down the line. that was a racing incident. Senna's managed to get his car restarted, and we've said it there. He's been disqualified. What was the reason given to that disqualification, Stephen?
Well, because there was a lot of Murray and Hunt were discussing at the time. You're not allowed to push start your car. If your car stops, you're not allowed to have assistance unless it's in a dangerous position. And because Senna was on the track and he got basically push started, well, they pushed him more onto the track and then pushed him down the escape road. That was legal. They said that was fine. That was okay. He could restart the race.
Oh, that's okay. Senna should claim victory then and take it to Adelaide.
So he goes down the escape road, but obviously, going down the escape road, he missed the chicane. And because he missed that one chicane on that one lap...
Gained a massive competitive advantage, to be fair.
And didn't complete the full... What was it? Race. Full race. I'm trying to think of the wording they used. Full race length or something like that. Because he didn't complete that, disqualified. And
there's only one thing I say to that. Bullshit.
It's really confusing because we're like, okay, well, we'll talk about something else in a second, why the decision may have been made, but basically what they're suggesting is the marshals who pushed him back onto track to get away from Prost's car should have then pushed him round the racing track to get it restarted whilst other cars were coming around that chicane.
Look, I know it would have been yellow flagged at that stage, but Nannini, although well back, these two had gone into a league of their own.
Cars, because I saw a car come right round.
Yeah, there were still cars going, and they took the sensible decision. Yeah. The escape road is there for a reason, for not making the corner.
And it's got the barriers to slow you down.
Exactly, and he went through all of those fine, and it was stupid. Yeah. It was a stupid disqualification. No, they're wrong. Yeah. Often we don't claim to be experts. We are just fans on this. But no, that was a wrong decision made.
That's why I mentioned the Norris one, because it's like, well, so any driver that uses escape road has to be disqualified? it's like,
I know disqualifications were a little bit harsher, I think, back then.
Yeah, they happen more often, yeah.
In terms of it, but I mean,
McLaren appealed it, didn't they?
They appealed it, but that's the funny thing about the appeal, because they were like, well, we didn't gain any competitive advantage, and we're not appealing this because Prost's leaving for Ferrari, and them having the championship, winning number one on the car for the start here. It's because McLaren, powered by Honda, winning Japan is a big deal for them, and winning the race means that they miss out on sponsor money.
Yeah.
So, it got reviewed, got upheld. Senna got given a 6-month suspended ban for dangerous driving, and McLaren got fined $100,000.
Turns out, well, I'm not sure if it was known at the time, but the FIA president, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm going to butcher it, and I'm going to attempt. He directly intervened in the decision, and he basically made the decision that Senna should have been disqualified, and I'm sure he probably had a big say in him getting his suspension at the 100k fine.
Now, if this was a year later, and Senna was given a ban for dangerous driving, I'd be on board with that, because that is a worse incident.
Oh yes, yeah.
And that is a terrible piece of driving and a real bad reflection on Senna. This incident was just, it doesn't sit easy. It's a stinker, absolute stinker from it, and it was a great battle. And it was very exciting on the racetrack, and it was interesting how it come. And in fairness, it was still incredible that Senna got the car round, got back in the pits, got past Nannini, made that considering what had happened just a couple of laps before and did the same thing, you know, that was hugely impressive. And to kind of, this was a man pushing everything. When you see people hungry and desperate for a world championship, that performance at Suzuka and Ayrton Senna sums that up perfectly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to be. So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much to say about the race other than that. It was climatised to that battle and to that incident and everything that surrounded it. So, in the comments down below, we'd love to hear what you think, or if there was anything that you actually did enjoy about the race other than the Senna and Prost fight. Maybe seeing the Lola Lamborghinis. Not a great Lamborghini livery though.
No.
There was some stinkers. Williams managed to get, obviously at that stage had lost the Honda engines and were in their in-between periods between Hondas and Renaults, and so managed to get a podium with Riccardo Patrese.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Comes up very often in these kind of classic race reviews.
Like Brundle had a good race because he ended up in 6th. And Murray was like, one man we didn't see this race was Brundle. So I'd be interested to know more about Brundle's race.
All I saw Brundle was getting lapped.
Yes.
That's all I remember from that.
But he must have made some pretty good moves to go up to 6th.
He must have done so. That's maybe something to go. But comment actually on what you think, what you make of that Prost and Senna incident. Do you disagree with this? Do you think Prost, you know, was entitled? He was on the racing line. And do you think the disqualification was fair on Senna? But I think, you know, it is often that thing that is debated still, and there will be Prost fans who defend it. But for this, like Senna is undefendable the following year, Prost for me is, he deliberately did that.
Yeah.
But that aside, the disqualification that came from Senna is just bizarre.
The thing is, their easy disqualification is you could argue that he was push-started, he wasn't in a dangerous position because they were nearly off the track. You could say that was illegal and he disqualified for that, but they said that was illegal. That part was the legal part. The illegal part was safely using the exit road.
Bizarre. But that is another classic race review. That's it done. And if you're new around here, or haven't done so already, what can they do, Stephen?
They can like, they can subscribe, and they can ding that bell.
Ding that bell, guys, because it means that every Sunday is a race day during this Corona break, and we will be back with another classic race review, and next week, in between, so over the next couple of weeks, we have next of our F1 legacies, and actually have Rob on board with us, to kind of do a podcast looking at Michael Schumacher's entire career and talk about his legacy. But in between part 1 and part 2, on the Mondays, next Sunday, great fight between him and Hakkinen at Belgium in 2000.
Oh yeah.
We're looking forward to it. And some very hard racing from there. Another rivalry that was very good, maybe a little bit more respectful off the track than the Prost and Senna one. But yeah, this Hakkinen Schumacher, looking forward to that Belgian one, so it should be good. So make sure you tune in for that. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.